Can hand them out to you. Anybody didn't, there you go. Anyone that did not receive the handouts. Can you just keep your hand up until you get it, because you're going to need them. Kelly, to the right. Katrina, if anyone needs handouts, you'll say you'll have more, right? And I have halls for us. Yeah, this is like in my face. Thank you.
You need anything else?
I'm just a nervous wreck.
That's all right, just get started.
I know.
You'll be good.
All right.
Okay?
How's my nose? How's my nose? Good?
Good.
Everything's good?
Everything's good. Just get it started.
All right. All right, I think we're ready to begin. One more person. My name is Kelly Odie, and it is an honor to be standing in front of you to present Legacy of Love. I am going to take you through me and my mother's journey of Alzheimer's and how a daughter had to take chances and make choices that I felt would be best for her when she could no longer make those choices for herself. Our journey started 10 years ago. Making decisions for someone isn't always easy. Many times it's hard. It can be exhausting, leaving you questioning yourself. Is this the absolute best decision? Tonight, I stand before you to share with you what I have learned. I have no legal or medical background. I stand before you giving you information and resources that I had no other choice but to learn about. I am just a daughter who loves her mother. My hopes for tonight is to make you think and prepare you and your loved ones for their future. We will be live streaming, so I was just informed that this will also be on YouTube, and I was told another channel, and I can't remember it. Rumble. So Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. So people will be able to go back and get that information. So if you missed something tonight, don't worry. I also have the names and numbers of the resources printed out for you. So at the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, just ask me, please. I want to also say that assisted living facilities and nursing homes, sometimes they are just unavoidable, depending on the medical need of each person. I am not here to talk against them. I am here just to give you options in the event that they need to be institutionalized, or if you choose to keep your loved one home. Before I begin, I need to thank a few people that have been with me on this journey. First and utmost, God. I thank God for opening doors when I thought they were closed. I thank God for this journey because it has taught me so much. And now I can share it with you. And I thank God for giving me the strength and the courage when I myself had none. I'd like to thank my husband, Robert, for being with me on this journey every step of the way. It has been a long journey, and he has supported me, comforted me, listened to me, and has been there for me to lean on more times than I could ever count. I would like to thank my children and their families. Through this journey, it has brought them closer to my mother. They have watched me through this journey. There is a saying, children are great imitators, so give them something great to imitate. I hope that I have given them just that. I would also like to thank my siblings. You've traveled with me through this journey. We all handle this disease differently because pain is not a one-size-fits-all. Pain is absorbed differently and handled differently. Alone, pain is hard, but together we can take our pain and turn it into joy because collectively our goal is to take care of our mother. Together the best we can because we are a team. We have found joy in this journey. And lastly, I would like to thank Gary Brown. Gary has taken so much of his own valuable time to help me in putting this together tonight through the videos and the slides. Watching him yesterday putting this together made me have all the more admiration and respect for him. Thank you, Gary. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about Medicare. I'm going to go over just the basics of Medicare to give you some insight. At the age of 65, everyone becomes eligible for it. But what is Medicare?
When you're first getting started with Medicare, there can be a lot to learn and consider, and it might seem overwhelming. Let's start at the beginning with the ABCs and D of Medicare. Medicare includes parts that are the building blocks of your health and drug coverage. Part A, Part B, and Part D. And there's also Medicare Advantage, sometimes known as Medicare Part C. Let's start with Medicare Part A. Medicare Part A is sometimes called hospital insurance. It covers hospital care, like inpatient care at a hospital, skilled nursing facility care, hospice care, and some home health care. Usually, you don't need to pay a monthly premium for Part A. Medicare Part B, or medical insurance, covers services like certain doctor visits, outpatient care, medical equipment like wheelchairs, and preventive services like flu shots. With Part B, you'll pay a premium every month. In many cases, if you don't sign up when you're first eligible, you'll have to pay a late enrollment penalty, which is added to the monthly premium cost for as long as you have Part B. That can add up, so it's important to pay attention to your deadlines. Medicare Part A and Part B are both under what's called Original Medicare. If you want drug coverage too, then you can join a separate Medicare Part D plan. Medicare Part D coverage is provided by private companies that you can choose from. For a Medicare Part D plan, you'll pay a monthly premium that depends on the plan. Remember to consider your plan options when you're first eligible to avoid late enrollment penalties. And finally, there's Medicare Advantage, also known as Medicare Part C. Medicare Advantage plans are another way to get your Medicare Part A and Part B coverage. These are Medicare-approved plans offered by private companies that bundle your Part A and Part B coverage, and usually include Part D drug coverage too. Most plans include extra benefits like vision, hearing, dental, and more. Ready to learn more? Visit Medicare.gov or review the Medicare and You handbook. You can also watch the other Get Started with Medicare videos at Medicare.gov. This product was produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Right? So Medicare's phone number is on your paper, but for those that are watching, 1-800-633-4227. The website is Medicare.gov. You can go there and search in depth all the resources. So when do you sign up for Medicare? The initial enrollment period starts 3 months before you turn 65. and ends 3 months after you turn 65. It's extremely important to understand that if you do not sign up for these plans during the enrollment period, Plan A, Plan B, and D, you will pay monthly late penalty enrollment fees for the duration of the time you are on these plans. It is not a one-time late penalty fee. So what is the monthly cost? Per person, not per couple. Medicare Part A, hospital insurance. It's generally free for most people. Medicare Part B, medical insurance. Currently, it runs around $170 a month, or higher depending on your income. Medicare Part D, prescription insurance. Drug plan premium range per month is $7 to $100. This plan varies depending on your prescriptions and whether you're on your plan's list of covered drugs, what tier the drug is in, which pharmacy you use, and more. So your monthly premium with Part B and D could cost up to $270 or more per month. That is not a married couple, that is per person. Medicare Part C, Medigap, or also called Medicare Advantage. That would be a Medicare Part A, Part B, and Part D. This plan fills in the gaps of original Medicare, as in co-payments, deductibles, and coinsurance. Currently, this could run you an extra $50 to $871 per month. In addition to the premium you would be paying at up to $270 a month for Part B and D. With Plan C, you are filling in the gaps to Part B and Part D, not replacing those other plans. You are adding another plan. None of these plans cover long-term care, such as assisted living facilities or nursing homes. My mother and stepfather were living only on Social Security, no retirement money. How was it even possible to save for her retirement when she had raised 7 children? My mother only had Medicare, Part A, B, and D. I had no idea she was paying money for from her Social Security to pay into Medicare. I just simply thought that it was a benefit you had paid into your entire working life. So it was a given that you would have free health coverage for your aging years. I was wrong. Not only was I wrong, I thought all of my mother's prescriptions were covered under this plan. The doctor wrote a lot of generic prescriptions, but there were some medications that my mother was on that had no generic form. They were not covered under Plan D. My mother would go to her doctor, fill out a form, have to send it directly to the drug manufacturer with her financial records. They would then send the prescriptions to her doctor's office, and she would have to go pick them up. But the problem was, she would forget to renew them. and then she'd have to start all over again. There were times I would go to the pharmacy to buy her medicines outright while she was waiting for the reapproval. The costs were staggering. I asked the pharmacist if there was a generic form for this or that particular medicine. No, there wasn't. So if your loved one is on a medicine that is not covered under their tier in Plan D, they now have to figure out a way to get their medicines on top of paying all the premiums. I just assumed that she had Medicare and that doctors and hospitals and all prescriptions were covered, and I was so very wrong. There are a lot of our parents that weren't able to plan for their futures, living only on Social Security. And at that time, my mother's Social Security was just under $900 a month. Now take what came out of her Social Security for Medicare. What was she left with? $700 a month? How are you able to live on that? Is it even possible? A lot of our seniors make choices. Do I take my medicines? Do I ration them? Maybe I can take them every other day. Do I cut them in half? Do I not take this one or that one? Or do I eat and keep the electric on? This was truly my mother's scenario, and I was not aware. Here's a lesson I have learned. As your parents are coming up to the age that they are eligible for Medicare, be involved. Not because you think they can't handle making decisions. Be involved so that you can understand and ensure that they get the best possible choices that are available for them. Don't assume, like I did, that they understand the process. I can assure you that they don't. My mother fell into that category, low income, because she was living only on Social Security. She was eligible for a program called Medicaid, yet she wasn't on it. Again, I assumed that whatever programs she should be on, she was on. What even is Medicaid? I will come back to that. I want to take you into a different scenario. My husband's parents. My mother-in-law had a home. It was paid off, no mortgage. She had been set up quite well by my father-in-law and his business. However, after 18 years of his passing, she was running out of money. She had a home that was paid off, but she was running out of resources. We had also noticed that she was starting to repeat things over and over again. My husband and her spoke. Together, they wanted to protect everything that she and my father-in-law had worked their whole lives for. That home was their legacy to their son. My mother-in-law went to a lawyer and deeded the home to my husband, took it out of her name to protect that asset from being taken for long-term care if she should eventually need it. She still lived in the home, but it is now legally my husband's. He also became her power of attorney, so he could eventually if and when needed, have access to her accounts and make decisions for her in the event that she could no longer make them for herself. My husband knew that Medicaid has a 5-year financial look back. For her to become eligible, they needed to transfer her assets. If you or your loved one have assets, do you have a plan? I would like to introduce to you someone that can help in protecting you and your loved one's assets. She took time to discuss different options, and even after speaking with her, I realized that me and my husband's wills and living wills may not be enough. Actually, in our situation, they simply are not enough. We have 2 paid-off homes and a business. We have retirement accounts. We want to protect our assets from being taken from our children and grandchildren in the event that we should need long-term medical care. We have worked our entire lives to leave them a legacy that will live past our lifetime. It is my privilege to introduce to you Katrina Register, attorney at law, to discuss estate planning.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. As Kelly mentioned, my name's Katrina Register, and I am formerly Katrina Geary, and some of you may know my parents here, Ed and Bev Geary. So a little background on myself before I dive in and start educating all of you. Why am I standing here, and why am I practicing estate planning law? Well, I've been an attorney for over 10 years now, and I've been working in the same law firm. And I had a son in 2019, and I am sitting 42 weeks pregnant, ladies, 42 weeks pregnant. And I've drafted I don't know how many wills for families, and I've done estate planning in the past. And now I'm about to be a mom. And my whole perspective on life automatically changed. And I start thinking the what ifs. What should happen if I don't make it out of labor and delivery? And have I communicated enough with my husband that I can ensure that my son is taken care of? And then if something were to happen to my husband, then what would happen to my child? And I started realizing in that moment that the standard way of attorneys practicing estate planning law, it's common practice, it's not malpractice, but they really are doing a disservice to a lot of their clients, especially with minor children, because they don't have proper planning set up. They don't have short-term legal guardianships set up. They don't have long-term legal guardians set up. And at that point in my life, I started revamping and redrafting a lot of the estate planning documents throughout my office. 13 months later, I had another little girl, and I continued to revamp my law firm and my estate planning practice. So now I'm standing before you. I am a wife first, I'm a mom, and then I'm a lawyer. And I do truly put, my family first, and that's the reason why I have a passion for what I do. And I started changing. I've been a civil trial attorney for 10 years, and I, believe it or not, as an attorney, I don't always want to fight in the courtroom. So my perspective on life has changed in the fact that my goals now are actually helping to serve my clients better and educate my community and keep people out of conflict and keep people out of the courtroom to really be able to serve them. So I'm here before you tonight to truly educate you and not to sell you any type of services. And as an attorney, there's this thing called attorney-client privilege. So any communication that I have one-on-one with individuals is protected by attorney-client privilege. So given that this is truly educational seminar, I have included folders and you have packets. There is an evaluation and a worksheet if you want to fill that out and you want to take notes. Please take notes. There's a separate notepad and there's a pen. But on the evaluation and on the worksheet, you can provide your name, your email address, your contact information. So after I'm educating you tonight, if you think of questions and you want to talk one-on-one with me, I'd be more than happy to schedule a one-on-one phone call with you, and we can take it from there. So if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago if I would be standing here tonight talking to you, the answer would have been no. My husband and I just started coming back to church after COVID and 2 babies. And the second week of coming back to church, I walk in late after getting the kids all set up in the nursery, and I walk in and Kelly's up here talking. And Kelly is talking about her Legacy of Love seminar that she is going to be presenting here with you all tonight. And I look at my husband, and those are my exact words that I've been using with my clients. And I give him the eye look, and he looks back at me, and he says, wow, this was meant to be. I was meant to walk into church a couple Sundays ago, and then Kelly and I connected, and she has been through so much, and I think that it is such a beautiful testimony, and she can help so many people here tonight, and I'm just happy and I'm honored that I can be here to help educate all of you. So, one of the things that I said to Kelly when I met with her about a week ago, I said, I know we're not supposed to worry about tomorrow, but that doesn't mean we're not supposed to appropriately plan. And I share that with you tonight because the right type of planning can keep your family out of court and out of conflict. So up until now, I will tell you that I've done a few Facebook posts, and I've never given a presentation on estate planning, so you all are my first. And I've just been, it's been spreading by word of mouth by sharing this information with people, and people don't know unless they are educated. And I will tell you that my dad's been handing out flyers as you all walked in, so the disclaimer is, if you ask my dad any legal questions coming in, please disregard that, okay? He might think he knows what he's talking about, but I just need to put that out there. He doesn't work with my office. He's not a paralegal, so you just come straight to me and just don't take any word from my father, all right? So I appreciate all of his help, but I have to give that disclaimer because my mom knows that he'll give as much advice as he can. All right, so let me jump into it. Here's the basic estate planning tools. So one of the first things is a power of attorney. And what is a power of attorney? That is a legal document that you execute while you're living, and it allows whoever you name as your agent to step into your shoes to make your legal and your financial decisions for you. And that is a very important document. And it is not just important for the later in age generation. That is important at the time that your children reach the age of 18. If you have children that are teenagers, you know, even though your little girl or your little boy go from 17 to 18, they're still living in your house, under the eyes of the law, at 18, they make their legal and financial decisions. So if anything should happen to them, if they become incapacitated, if, God forbid, they're in a car accident and they're hospitalized and you're not on their bank accounts, you cannot make legal and financial decisions for them without a valid power of attorney. And that goes for all ages, but 18 and up. And people really don't think about that 18 age being a triggering point. But I wanted to point that out. Do I have anyone in the room tonight with minor children? All right, so minor children, and I'm not here to scare you tonight, I'm here to educate you. One of the things that I always point out, and the thing that I think about, is what should happen if you don't make it home. What should happen if you and your spouse go out for a date night, you have a babysitter at home, and you're in a car accident, and you're incapacitated? Who is the babysitter going to call? If they call 911, if they contact the police, The police are legally required to contact Protective Child Services if you don't have legal guardianship documents set up in place. And that is one of my biggest fears with my babies, because I said to myself, that's the last thing that I ever want to happen, even if it's on a temporary basis. So you have short-term and you have long-term legal guardianship documents, and those are essential for anyone with minor children. So those are additional documents. Healthcare directives. The power of attorneys and your healthcare directives, this goes in line also with your minor children, because you can set up healthcare directives. What is a healthcare directive? I'll step back. That is a document that allows you to make medical decisions on behalf of an individual. So, same thing with your children. You can have health directives for minor children, so that way my mom is next step up. She's the long-term guardian should something happen to my husband and I, but I also have short-term legal guardian forms. So if I and my husband are incapacitated and not available in the car accident scenario, and my children need medical care, she has the legal right to make those decisions on behalf of my children. And that way, it keeps it out of court, because otherwise you're waiting for a judge to issue an order and to say who has the legal right to make those decisions. Now, all of those documents that I just talked about, those are while you are still living. And a lot of people misunderstand that, and I actually receive a lot of phone calls that come into my office, and they say that my mother or my father passed away, but I'm their power of attorney. And I explained to them that power of attorney was only valid while your mother and father were still living. So the document that goes into effect once someone passes away would be a will. And a will is a legal document which you then designate how you want all of your assets, your personal belongings, and how you want everything distributed. Now, a will is something that has to be proved in probate court. And what is probate court? Well, probate court was created and it's set up to make sure that all of your creditors get paid and that all of your assets are properly distributed. So, if you have all of your assets titled properly, and if you have your life insurance set up where you have a specific named beneficiary, your life insurance does not go through probate. If you have your retirement accounts where you have a specific beneficiary named, your retirement account would not go through probate. It goes to that specifically named beneficiary. Now, with a special note, if any of you with minor children, if you have your minor children listed as a beneficiary, second up to your spouse, then it would go through probate because the minors cannot receive that money outright. So you have to name above 18 individuals for your life insurance and for your retirement accounts in order for those assets to avoid probate court. Now, one of the other legal documents that I'm going to talk about, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, Kelly knows I drew out a whole diagram with her and explained it, and that's something that I like to do more one-on-one. What I can say is that we are all unique. We all have our own family dynamics. We all have our own specific assets. The law is what the law is, but all of your specific facts are individualized. So that's something where we can do more of a one-on-one if you'd like, and I can get into that. But for tonight's purposes, I'm going to simply explain to you what a trust is. And there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to a trust, because people say that either they don't need estate planning because they're not old enough, which isn't true, or they say, I don't need estate planning because I don't have enough money, or I'm not wealthy enough for estate planning. Which is also not true, because the purpose of estate planning is to protect the ones that you love. You do not do estate planning for yourself. You will not be here to benefit from your estate plan. If you choose to do estate planning, you're making that conscious decision to keep your family out of court and your family out of conflict. So a trust, a living trust, If you think of it like it is simply an agreement, and I like to refer to it as a box, and the four corners of a box, this box protects all of your assets while you're living. So you throw your house into this box, you throw your bank accounts into this box, you throw your investments into this box, and it's protected around these four corners. What's it protected from? Well, it's first of all, when you have a house and it's titled in your individual name, if I had my house titled in my individual name and I were to pass away, my husband, he is named on the mortgage. We're husband and wife, and it's called with right of survivorship. So if any of you in here are married and you have with right of survivorship on your deed, husband and wife, whether it says with right of survivorship or not, if you're husband and wife, you're both named on that deed, then husband dies first, 100% of that house is now owned by the wife. Avoids probate, don't have to worry about it. When wife dies though, the surviving spouse, when that surviving spouse passes away, it doesn't automatically get transferred and retitled into your kids' names just because you said that your kids are going to receive everything in your will. If it's titled in the individual's name, it has to go through probate court. And in New Jersey, the probate court process is anywhere up to 12 months, sometimes more, given the complexity of how many assets you have. And it's not a matter of, for probate, it's not a matter of so much how much assets you have, although if you have a house, you're going to end up going through probate because it has to be retitled. So if you think of it this way, the court has to actually order to say, here's an order, you have permission to retitle this house into another individual's name. Because now both husband and wife has passed away, and we can't just retitle it into the kid's name, or we can't just sell it and distribute the assets without going through that court process. So with a trust, if you have a trust set up, you retitle the property into the name of the trust. Going back to what this trust is, it's an agreement. And there's three parties to this agreement. There's the grantor or the creator of the trust, it's the same thing. And there's the trustees, who's in control of everything that's owned by the trust. Think of it as your house, your bank accounts, your assets. And then you have the beneficiaries of the trust, who is benefiting from all of those assets that is owned and titled by this trust. When you are living, and I refer to it as a living trust, when you are living, you are all three roles. You are the creator or the grantor, you are the trustee in control of everything, and you're the beneficiary. So you go on with your life and your bank accounts. My husband and I, when you receive the account statements in the mail, it is say the living trust of our name, and my checks still say Brandon and Katrina Register. So, and you know what, when I started off, I know my husband's probably gonna watch this and kill me for not saying anything about him. My husband is Brandon, and my two little ones are Blake and Bailey, and that's who I was talking about. And I gave some credit to my mom and dad and didn't even mention my husband and my kids, so I'm sorry, guys. But my husband, Brandon, and I, this is why I don't go by a script. I'm not really good at that because I fly off the handle in the courtrooms and I talk just off of what comes to my mind. So Kelly's much more scripted than I am, and God bless you for that. I said I was going to try to follow a script and stay under 20 minutes, so I'm getting there. I'm on target. All right, so back to this trust agreement. When it's retitled into the name of the trust, in my husband and I's scenario, if I were to pass away, my husband were to pass away, then who steps in as the trustee? And in my particular situation, because I can talk about myself, then my mom would step in as the trustee. So then she has control. It completely avoids probate court. We don't have to go through probate court. And if my children are still minors, then all of that money is protected within the four corners of that box. And there's no conflict, there's no issues, there's no lag in time as far as selling the house and being able to take the assets from that house to benefit then my children or whatever situation is going on. Who needs the protection of estate planning? And for me personally, it's my husband, Brandon, and my 2 children, Blake and Bailey. My dog and my horse are listed in there as well, because, who you have to say specifically, who you want to leave your animals to and who would care for them. But if you think about it, sitting here today, if something were to happen to you, and just take a moment to think about that. Who do you need to protect in your life if something were to happen to you? And that's really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about, is protecting the people that you love the most. And really, the estate planning is not just, when I refer to, family wealth is what I talk to my clients about. And when people hear the word wealth, they think dollars and cents and they think money. But how I have redefined family wealth for estate planning, it's much more than just money. It's your values, your insights, your life experiences, your stories, and your spiritual assets. And you do leave a lot more to your family than just a piece of paper that may be a will or a trust or other documents, and much more than any type of monetary value. So what I will say is, because I know I'm running out of time, there are ways to avoid the probate court. Simply, I know I just talked about the life insurance and I talked about the retirement. Bank accounts. For those of you that don't own homes, but you have bank accounts, there is a way to avoid probate court without having the trust planning. And that would be contacting your bank, going down there, scheduling an appointment, and making sure that your account has a payable on death. And what that means is the same thing with your life insurance and with your retirement accounts, is that you are specifically naming someone that would receive all of your bank account assets in the event of your death. So I consider myself a personal family lawyer. And what that means is that I become very personal with your family, and I want to be there to help my clients, to help all of you. And one day you may need a lawyer, and I don't know what the reason may be, and I don't know when that may occur. But if that day does come, then I want to be there for you. You do have my contact information in the folders. You have my name, my email, my telephone number. If you would like to have more one-on-one and specific questions with me, then I'd be more than happy to set up a time to talk with you. So I'm sticking around, and I'll be at the back when you walk out. If you want to fill out that worksheet with your contact information, then just hand it off to me, and then I'll be back in contact with you, and I can answer any of your specific questions, okay? Thank you very much for your time.
Well, that was a lot to think about, huh? Yes, right? Katrina, thank you. Such an honor, thank you. We will be using you, by the way. Promise. Okay, so it's time to share my mother's journey. It's a journey of pain that's so encompassing that would lead me to resources to help me with my mother the best that I could. As I stated, my mother started showing signs of Alzheimer's 10 years ago. She was seeing doctors, and they had her on Namenda and Aricept. These two medications slow down the progress of the disease, but they don't cure it. Approximately 5.5 years ago, my mother's disease had progressed to the point where her doctor felt that she should now be in an assisted living facility. At that time, it was the right choice. An assisted living facility is just that. It assists you in your daily living. There are full-time nurses, aides, their prescriptions get delivered and directly to the facility, and the nurses distribute them. In-house doctors, meals prepped and served in dining rooms, activities, a hairstylist, a podiatrist that comes and clips their toenails. There's social interaction with other seniors and so much more. Again, it was the right decision. So, I researched and I found my mother a beautiful assisted living facility. It was like an upscale hotel. I went in and I toured it, and I decided this was perfect for my mother. Then I sat down with the director, and she asked me for my mother's insurance. I handed her my mother's Medicare card. She said, "Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care." So what did that mean? Well, if you want your mother to come and stay in this facility, you have to pay $5,500 a month. I didn't have that kind of money, and neither did my mother. She then looked over my mother's financial records that I had brought because she had asked me to. She looked through it and she said, "Your mother is eligible for Medicaid." All right. What does that mean? That means you need to sign your mother up for Medicaid, and Medicaid pays our facility in full. The current average price of an assisted living facility for a room runs anywhere from $5,500 to $7,000 a month. If you need a memory impairment unit, that starts at about $7,000 to $9,000 a month. Do you also know that if you want to place your loved one in an assisted living facility, most facilities want you to show 2 years of payments in an account? So if it is $5,500 a month, you need $132,000 in the bank to prove that it can be paid for before they ever enter. Let's talk about Medicaid. So what is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? There are several differences. However, at that moment, the most important difference was that Medicaid pays for long-term care.
Welcome to Medicare and Medicaid 101. Medicare and Medicaid are two separate government-operated programs that provide medical and other health-related services to specific groups of people in the United States. Both are managed by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, which is a division of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. Wait, what's the difference? Medicare covers hospital and medical care for elderly and certain disabled Americans. Medicaid covers health and medical services for certain individuals with limited resources and low-income families. Individuals that qualify for support from both programs are considered dual eligible. Medicare is a federally operated social health insurance program for certain people, including people 65 or older, certain younger people with disabilities, people with permanent kidney failure requiring dialysis or transplant. Payroll taxes are the primary source of Medicare funding. A 2.9% tax on wages is typically split between the employee and employer. This money is put in a trust fund used to reimburse healthcare providers and private insurance companies. Additional funding comes from beneficiary premiums and cost-sharing mechanisms, including deductibles, co-insurance, and copays. Medicaid breakdown. Medicaid is a jointly operated government health insurance program for certain people, including individuals with limited resources and low-income families. Medicaid can be either full coverage or supplemental, in which case it pays after Medicare, employer health plans, and/or Medicare supplemental insurance, Medigap. Medicaid is managed first at the federal level, though each state administers its own Medicaid program. Oversight at the federal level establishes mandatory requirements for each state program in order to receive federal funding. Individual states establish state-specific eligibility standards. They determine duration, amount, type, and scope of services, and establish reimbursement rates for services. Medicaid sends payment to healthcare providers for services rendered, based on established fee-for-service agreements or prepayment arrangements like health maintenance organizations, HMOs. Each state is reimbursed for a share of their Medicaid expenditures from the federal government. Each state may impose nominal cost-sharing mechanisms, except for certain populations, including pregnant women, children under 18 years of age, and hospital or nursing home patients who use most of their income to the cover. What is dual eligibility? Dual eligibles are people who are eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid coverage. There are a number of ways dual eligibility can combine coverage. Medicare coverage through Original Medicare, Part A or Part B, or through a Medicare Advantage plan, Part C. Full or supplemental Medicaid coverage. People with Medicare and full Medicaid coverage will have Part D prescription drugs covered through Medicare. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Medicare and Medicaid. For more info about infusion and advocacy efforts on behalf of patients and providers, we encourage you to further explore infusioncenter.org.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I would like to clarify some frequently asked questions about Medicare. In this video, I will discuss what is Medicare, what are various parts of Medicare, how much does it cost, what is covered and what is not covered by Medicare, and the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. So what is Medicare? Medicare is health insurance for people 65 or older, people under 65 with certain disabilities, and people of any age with end-stage renal disease. Now let's take a look at various parts of Medicare. Part A, which is hospital insurance, covers your inpatient care in hospitals, skilled nursing facility care, hospice care, and home health care. Part B, which is medical insurance, covers services from doctors and other healthcare providers, outpatient care, home health care, durable medical equipment, and some preventative services. Part C, which is Medicare Advantage Plan, works like a health maintenance organization, HMO, or a preferred provider organization, PPO. It includes all benefits and services covered under Part A, and Part B usually includes Medicare prescription drug coverage, Part D, as part of the plan. It is run by Medicare-approved private insurance companies and may include extra benefits and services for an extra cost. Part D, which is Medicare prescription drug coverage, is designed to help cover the cost of your prescription drugs. It is run by Medicare-approved private insurance companies, may help lower your prescription drug costs and help protect against higher costs in the future. Medicare is not free. Medicare premiums, deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments for typical medical services must be paid by the policyholder and should be taken into consideration when estimating medical expenses in retirement. So Part A, hospital care, hospital insurance, typically there is no premium charge for Part A for most of the people if you've worked and earned enough credits in your lifetime. There is an annual deductible and additional charges for hospital inpatient care though. Part B, which is again medical insurance, The premium varies by income and it is $134 a month. This is for year 2018, but this amount changes every year. And it could be higher depending on your income. There is also an annual deductible and typically there is a 20% copay. There are various options that can help you manage these deductibles and coinsurance. Feel free to reach out and we will be glad to help you navigate the Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage plans. Part C, Medicare Advantage plans. This plans charge additional premiums and copays vary as well. Part D, Medicare prescription drug coverage. This plan charges additional premium based on your income and choice of plan. There are deductibles and copays also vary. Medicare does not pay for everything. Medicare doesn't cover everything, right? So if you need certain services that aren't covered under Medicare Part A or Part B, you will have to pay for them yourself, unless you have other coverage, including Medicaid, to cover the cost, or you are in the Medicare health plan that covers these services. Even if Medicare covers services or items, you generally have to pay deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments in certain cases. Some of the items and services that Medicare doesn't cover include most dental care, eye examinations related to prescribing glasses, dentures, cosmetic surgery, acupuncture, hearing aids, and exams for fitting them, and long-term care. Now, if you need help with coverage of the above items, please feel free to contact us and we will be glad to help you. Medicare is not Medicaid. Medicaid is a joint federal and state program that helps with medical costs for some people with limited income and resources. Medicaid also offers benefits not normally covered by Medicare, such as nursing home care and personal care services.
That last video was from 2018, so as you can see, along with everything else, coverage rates go up. Medicaid's phone number in New Jersey is 1-800-356-1561. Medicaid's website for New Jersey is www.benefits.gov/benefit/1314. You will find an enormous amount of information here, and also you can apply for Medicaid right from that site. To apply for Medicaid's long-term care, the phone number is 609-645-7700, extension 4318. I applied for my mother and she was accepted into Medicaid's long-term care. She didn't lose into Medicaid. I did say that, right? Medicaid's long-term care. She didn't lose Medicare. She now had both Medicare and Medicaid. She had dual coverage and no longer had to pay the premiums for Medicare from her Social Security. I was now ready for the assisted living facility for my mother. I wanted my mother to have a private room, so this was extra. It was an additional $600 for a private room, so my siblings and I split that cost. If she shared a room with another resident, it would have been no charge at all. My mother spent 3 years at that facility, and then her disease progressed. My mother started hallucinating and walking out of the facility. They would redirect her back in. However, this was not a facility that you had to punch a code into for the door to open. It was a facility that you could come and go as you please. There are a lot of residents that have other reasons for being in an assisted living facility. So that isn't an issue for them. However, my mother had a memory impairment disease. This became an issue for her now. They sent my mother to a hospital for evaluation because of her symptoms of the disease. You have to deal with the symptoms as they occur. So this could mean recurring medicine changes. If something doesn't work, they just keep trying other medications to stop the symptoms. She became an elopement risk, which means an escape risk. Once she was declared that by that facility, they told me that I would have to move her into a different facility that was code-based to enter and leave. Searching for other options, I looked into several facilities. However, when they asked me what prescriptions my mother was on, and I told them, some of those facilities would not take her because the medicine she was on was considered a behavioral medicine. Yes, my mother has Alzheimer's. The medicine is helping her to keep all those bad symptoms away, I would say. It didn't matter. So I had to keep searching. I had facilities that were fine with the prescriptions she was on. However, they had no Medicaid rooms available, and there was a waiting list, which then made my options few. I finally found a facility that had the code to the door and would accept Medicaid. So we moved her in. I remember walking to the nurse's station upstairs whenever I had questions or concerns regarding my mother, and I walked by that lockdown memory impairment unit. There was a glass window so I could look in, and I dreaded that unit. I would stand there and say, my mother cannot end up in there. I would do everything I could to keep her out. About a year into being in that facility, my mother noticed that the door to the building was delayed. So she followed the UPS man out, and he actually held the door for her. The receptionist ran out and brought my mother back in. She wasn't trying to escape. She just wanted to go outside and sit with the others in their rockers. However, only residents that had the code could come and go as they pleased, not the ones that didn't have the code, like my mother. So this happened 2 more times. A visitor, I can't. So, my goodness. A visitor would come in, and my mother was smiling, and they would hold the door for her, and out she would go. She just went to the rocker, but she just wanted to get outside because it was nice out, right? And she was just happy to be out of the building. The visitors thought that my mom was just a visitor. I had meetings with the owner over this, but he said it would be a liability if she got out. I understood that. I most certainly didn't want her just to walk out. She needed constant monitoring. I would look up at that unit, though, and I was dreading it. Please don't let her go in there. She's not trying to escape. She doesn't know any better. The doors were alarmed. So if you didn't have a code and held the bar on the door for 10 seconds, the door would release and an alarm would go off to alert the staff. The doors have to have release for fire code reasons. Winter came. I received a call. that she had been moved to the memory impairment unit because temperatures were dropping and she had tried to follow someone out, even though she didn't actually go outside. She just looked out the door. It was cold. She stepped back in and the door shut. But that was a liability. He said that even though the door was alarmed, he couldn't guarantee me that in the middle of the night, she would not get out of the building if by chance no one checked to see why the alarm went off. That was one of the worst days that I can remember. They gave me the code to get into that unit. And here she was, a prisoner, with a hallway, a bedroom, a small dining area, and a common area. My mother could still walk and talk, and many of the others couldn't. Her social interaction was now incredibly limited. Some to no social interaction at all. This was where she now was. I had no more options, or so I thought. Now COVID hits. No one is allowed in the facility. I spent the last night with her before they shut us out. I just wanted to be with her to the last minute. I tucked her in bed and I cried the whole way out of that facility that night. I was assured by the owner and by the staff that she was going to be all right. She was safer in there than out here. Weeks turned into 3 months. Over the course of those months, I would go to the window and I would be put on speakerphone so that my mother could hear my voice, so she could see me from below. And I wanted her to know that I hadn't abandoned her. As weeks passed, I started noticing something. She was changing. She wasn't smiling. She was in despair. What was happening in there?
Mom! I love you! I love you very much. Okay? I'll be there soon, okay? I love you. You're gonna be okay. I love you. With all my heart, Mom. Okay? All my heart.
When my mother stopped coming to the window, I had the aides FaceTime me so that I could talk to my mother. She listened, but she wouldn't speak to me anymore. I had them take pictures so that I could just see her, look at her features. I now knew what was happening. My mother was losing hope. The governor said that we can now see our loved ones. Outside, supervised for 20 minutes. I called immediately, and I wanted to book a time to see my mother. They told me that they weren't going to allow me to see my mother because they weren't going to be able to get her back in the unit. I begged them. They told me no. Well, they weren't going to stop me anymore. No one and nothing would stop me from seeing her. So I went in. What I found was beyond comprehension to me. I broke. I had my mother's Medicaid care manager's number in my phone, so I dialed. She answered, and in between sobs, I told her everything. She was as disturbed as I was. The question came, what are your plans for your mother? I replied, I am taking my mother home. Okay, I'm gonna hang up, and in a few minutes, your phone will ring. Answer it. It will be a nurse from Medicaid, and she will want to speak to you. The nurse's name is Megan McKinney. She was compassionate and listened as I was trying to keep my sanity. I had no plan. The only thing that I knew for sure was that I was taking my mother home unequipped. No knowledge of how to care for an Alzheimer's patient. However, Megan started to calm me down. She said, you do know how to take care of your mother. Alzheimer's is just a part of it. And I am here, and I will assist you all the way. She told me what I had to do to prepare my home, to bring my mother home safely. She also told me that my mother was on a program that covered institutional residential care and support, also known as assisted living facilities and nursing homes. She was going to transfer my mother into a different program for home self-care or home health agency for AIDS. Wait, there's another option? My mother doesn't have to be in this unit? Yes, Megan said. I'm going to set it all up for you. Just prepare your home. Why didn't I know this? Why didn't anyone ever tell me that there were other options? They just kept telling me it was the best choice for my mother. Even in those moments when my heart said it wasn't until Megan called me that my eyes were opened. I felt hope for the first time in over a year for my mother's outcome. I would never again let anyone tell me what they thought was best for my mother. I now had Megan, and I needed her.
So you're an individual with disabilities, chronically ill or simply aging, and you are Medicaid eligible and looking for support to perform your everyday activities such as bathing, cooking, cleaning. Your long-term healthcare journey could lead you on 3 paths. 1. Institutional residential care and support. 2. Home care staffing agencies. Or 3. Self-directed home care. With institutional residential care and support, your journey means leaving your home and potentially your community and local support system. With home care staffing agencies, you stay in your home, but your choice and control over your support workers and services are limited. A company is primarily in charge of your care and support versus you. And there is potential for a constant rotation of strangers coming into your home to care and support you.
My husband and I, along with my son Philip, Alzheimer-proofed our home the best we could. We put knobs on the doors, child-proof knobs. We took the knobs off the stove and put them somewhere safe. We put all the knives or sharp objects high and away. Alarmed our doors, so anytime any of the 3 doors opened, an alarm would go off. We put a motion sensor on my mom's door, and the monitor was by my bedside. It would go off in the middle of the night. When she opened her door, I was alerted that she was up, and I ran down the stairs. We also have 2 porches and a deck. My son came over and built gates for all 3 decks. He put locks on them, and we hung the keys where she couldn't find them. So now my mother was safe. Megan called the company that provides home delivery medical products and had diapers, chucks, wipes, ointments, etc. delivered. That company is Medline Industries. Their phone number is 1-800-633-5463. Now, I never had to call them. Once Megan set it up, it was done. They would contact me monthly and ask about, my mother had a medical budget of $180 a month, and I would just tell them what I needed that month. Megan found an aide through an agency that was on the Medicare program. So I would get 24 hours per week in the beginning, paid in full. After 2 months home, my mom got increased to 32 hours a week because my mom's needs increased. So it was time for mom to come home. Just 3 days after I entered that facility that day, she was home. Now I had to set up mom's doctors. Rowan Medicine house calls. Yes, they come to your home and they are accepting new patients. Weiss Foot, an ankle center. Yes, they come to your home and they clip your loved one's toenails. I pay nothing for these doctors. It's all covered. Also covered under Medicaid, transportation within 20 miles of your home to transport your loved one and their aide to the doctor. Go to motivecare.com. I personally have never used this company. One more transportation service is called All For You. They are covered under some plans. If you are not covered under the plan, they currently charge a $60 round trip fee plus $3 per mile, but they only charge you for your loved one, not the aide. There's also online support for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. I am a part of that group. It's called My Alls Team. This group has a tremendous amount of information that will help you in understanding the disease and solutions to reoccurring issues as personality changes. I did have a physical therapist coming this evening, but she no longer could. She is from Fox Rehab, and she works as a home physical therapist. She had resources to share with you. I'm just going to quickly go through her slides because I am not a physical therapist. But the center she works for, Fox Rehab, they come to your home. They do physical, occupational, and speech therapy in the home. So there's one of the slides for the palliative care. Could we move to the next one? That's the medical lab. That's when they'll come and draw urine and blood from your loved one at home. And then we have home helpers. These are aides. These are aides that will come to the home and care for your loved ones. And then I even think there's one more. Is there one more for the hair necessity? Yeah. There you go. You have a hairdresser that comes to the home. So you don't have to take your loved one out. They'll come right to you. So my mom is now home now on this program, and at this point for about 10 months. As stated, it is the home staffing agency, which gives you aides through an agency. This program was absolutely a saving grace because they were supplying me with aides that were paid for by the program. They asked me the days and hours that I needed the aide for, and they worked it out to the best of their ability to see that I had an aide. However, aides are employees. So when my mother's aide called out, they were supposed to get me another replacement aide. But that generally doesn't happen. So I understand that there are times that I couldn't go to work because I had to stay home with my mom. I needed more hours, more than 32 hours a week. Or if my aide called out, I needed a backup. My mother's aide gave me the number of another private aide. So now I have contacts for private aides. So the private aide is about $15 an hour, okay? So now I had put that time in, like the day that I didn't have the aide, and then I gapped it with those few hours maybe that I needed prior to coming home from work. They are live-in aides, or they're just hourly aides, but there are private aides. As a matter of fact, I do know right now currently 3 private aides that are looking for live-in work. My mother's aide, through the program now, wants to go home to her country for 2 months. I was supposed to get another aide. Megan was on top of it. However, at the last minute, the agency drops the ball. There were short aides, and they couldn't find a replacement. The private aide was only there a few hours, and she couldn't give me extra. Megan told me about one more program that my mother was eligible for through Medicaid. It's called PPL, Self-Directed Home Care. Again, Megan made that call and transferred my mother into this other program. This is the current program my mother's on.
There is a third option, self-directed home care. One of the best kept secrets in long-term care. And while each state has different rules, there are common benefits versus the previous 2 options. Self-directed home care provides you with the ability to hire your own care support workers, including friends and potentially family members, all of whom you love and trust. You're not restricted by the hours an agency provider can work, so there are more hours of care and support for you. You're not paying the costs for an institution or agency, so more of your benefits are working for you. You have greater independence, you're in charge, and have more control of your journey. Interested in learning more? We are Public Partnerships. Start your self-directed home care journey today.
Public Partnership Program, Self-Directed Home Care. Now I have full control over who I want to care for my mother. This program assesses your loved one's daily living needs and medical needs, then comes up with an amount that they're going to pay you. Your spouse, an aide, a sister, a friend, whomever you choose. Your loved one becomes the employer, and whomever you choose becomes the employee. This sounded like a lot to me. I didn't understand all the technical terms, but I didn't have to. PPL made it easy. If the person that you're caring for lives with you, they take no federal tax out of your payroll. It's federally tax exempt. They granted my mother at just under $2,300 a month. This does not affect her Social Security. While my mother has been under my care, my stepfather passed. I contacted Social Security because my sister had alerted me to the widow's benefit. She went from $868 a month to $1,869 a month in Social Security. Late January of this year, I received a call from PPL. And they told me that my mother had been given an increase due to the American Rescue Act. She would now be receiving $3,300 per month from the program. I called no one. They call me every month. They check in with me to see if I understand the program. They help me in inputting hours. So between Social Security and the PPL program, my mother now receives $5,169 a month in addition to her medical supplies and her care manager, which is a nurse. Whoever you choose to care for your loved one, they're the one that's going to get that paycheck every 2 weeks from the program. You just type in the hours, the services performed, PPL does everything else. When my mother was in the assisted living facility or on the home care staffing agency program, I never knew what Medicaid paid them. It was never disclosed. It was shocking to me when I transferred her into self-directed home care, what Medicaid would pay me to take care of my loved one and that she could be around people that loved her. My mother gets one-on-one care now. All of her needs are met in the comfort of our home. So no one can tell me when to come and go. Everyone's journey is different. But for my mother, if only I had this information and I knew that these resources existed, she would never have ended up in that memory impairment unit for over a year. You can go to publicpartnerships.com, call customer service at 1-844-880-8702, or contact a New Jersey PPL consultant directly at 609-250-2994. I want to show you another video from the PPL program. I've been speaking a lot about elder care, but what if it was for your child?
I do serve as her employee. I manage all the things that she does. I take her to virtually everything she does. Not 100%, my husband does some, but that's my job. I mean, that is my job. So I do that. I get her to all her activities and try to create them, try to make them happen. Julie's daily life every day differs, but it's she has a full day.
Follow me.
She goes to a place for people who have special needs to be gainfully employed to whatever extent they can be employed. They also have a day hab area where they're working on life skills and to train them to do job. She goes to speech and occupational therapy a couple of times a week.
And they're both what? Trained. Right, they're both drinks.
We volunteer at Ruby Hospital. We deliver mail once a week. It's her gig. I'm her caddy.
Yay! Come on, guys, follow me.
I walk around carrying the mail, helping make sure we get to the right floors and all, but it's her job to deliver the mail. She just finished volleyball. We keep her busy.
I like balls. It took me sit-ups. I did sit-ups, like and I feel awesome. My heart started hard, and it felt great.
And talking about self-directed care, I would never go back to having it run through an agency. I absolutely love being able to get Julie into as many programming things as I can. I love that we can get her into extra speech, which we do. It really does give us the chance to get Julie out in the community without her mom and dad at times, which I think is a huge bonus for her. And there's more money for Julie that goes straight into Julie's direct line as opposed to pays into the agency overhead. We don't do that at all anymore. The role of public partnership, it enables us to take the money that Julie's insurance gives us and use it to pay for different things, whether it's OT, it helps pay for speech, it pays the salaries to the respite folks, the money that comes to me takes care of the taxes that have to go back in to the Social Security, and gives us our resource consultant, which is the greatest. I feel like I shepherd this little miracle angel, and I'm grateful to do that. My job as her mother is to be her advocate, and secondly, and my husband, we are to do everything we can to create the fullest life we can create for her. The freedom that we have to make some choices because we have self-directed care contributes to that. And that's the path we hope for her, and we're grateful to walk it with public partnerships.
When I was searching, bye. Cut. When I was searching for information for you, this was one of the first videos that came up. This video resonated through me. My granddaughter has Down syndrome. This program could help my granddaughter one day. This program doesn't just self-pay. It enables your loved one with disabilities to live and thrive in the community. Self-direct pay is just a part of it. This program will be very valuable to my granddaughter and to her parents when she becomes an adult. My daughter-in-law had posted a picture of my granddaughter and put words to it that took my breath away. See the able, not the label. Wow. Those with special needs are just that. They are special, extraordinary people that deserve the opportunity to live a life fulfilled just as anyone else. PPL is a resource to help fulfill that. I want to ask one more person to come up. I have so much deep respect for this person. She reached out to me and she had been wanting to start a ministry. Annie Valerio, would you come up? She wants to speak to you for a few minutes about a ministry that we're going to present to the pastor, but I think it would be a great ministry.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I am so privileged and honored to be here. As others, when I heard Kelly speak a couple weeks ago, I was moved. Jesus truly moved in my heart to come up and speak to people. The information has been astounding, and Kelly's journey has been exceptional, and we can all see Jesus reflected in her as she went through her journey. But tonight, I want to talk about you. Wow, you might say, what about me? Why would someone want to talk about me? Because you are the caregivers. You are the people who day in and day out take care of your care receiver. And that care receiver could be someone very close to you. It could be a parent. It could be your spouse. It could be your child, as Kelly explained. But just think about it. If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anyone else? My name is Annie Valerio, and I have been a caregiver. I'm a registered nurse, and I've been a caregiver for over 35 years. And within the past 5 years, I have been a care receiver. So care receivers, those that you take care of, come in many forms, many ages, many diagnoses, and many ways. So what we were thinking about is to go forward and talk about how we could support the caregivers. As Kelly said, this is a ministry that God has laid on our hearts, and it hasn't been approved yet. But we were just wondering if there was enough interest to go forward with this. It probably would look like meeting maybe once a month, as most support groups do. And we would go over different issues and different topics, sustain different things, such topics as what it means to be a caregiver, taking care of yourself, building cooperative relationships, and that's with the agencies, with each other, even with your own families. Preventing and solving problems, assessing and developing resources. Where is God in your process spiritually? How do we work and live? And respite care for your receivers. If they're not available, a lot of people aren't able to receive the services. And if you can't, what else is there for you? So you might say when you're talking about, oh, I never think of myself. It's selfish. It's, I'm okay. It's my care receiver who needs everything. But have you ever had a bad day as you're caring for someone? Have you ever been frustrated or feeling hopeless or angry? Have you ever looked at your care receiver and said, who is this person? Their whole personality has changed. Sometimes it's for the positive, sometimes it's for the negative. Sometimes the sweetest person in the world turns to be angry or combative, and you're looking at your loved one, and sometimes it can be very frustrating. So this is basically what we would want to do to help. And the support group, just a few ideas of how it would look like is, first of all, it's about you. It's about the participants of the caregiver support group who would run the meeting, and there would be leaders who would be directing topics and helping to coordinate the conversations. Also, I had mentioned that it most likely would be once a month, but if the grade is neater to meet more frequently or whatever, that would be discussed. And the role of the ministry leaders would be to offer the vital information for the caregivers, to provide support for the caregivers. And the main thing is that this would be something that people, that you, the participants, will be running and speaking about. And then we know that in most support groups, it's like people talking about a like topic. And you hear what's happening to you may be happening to someone else, and advice can be given to you to help and support you. It's all about support. So we just wanted to, I just wanted to stand before you and ask if that might be an option. But just briefly, with a raise of hands, would anybody be interested in something like this for us to go forward? Okay. Okay. So we will keep you posted, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. So we are winding this down. I just got to take you through the last part of this journey that we're still on. Remember my mother's care manager and nurse, Megan? That one that called a grieving daughter in one of her darkest hours? She saved my mother by giving me encouragement and resources and telling me, yes, you can care for your mother. I was so inspired by her and so grateful that I wrote a letter to her direct supervisor 6 months after my mom was home. I wrote from my heart, and that letter went up the chain to the president of NJ Horizon Health, which is through Medicaid. I received an email and a phone call from the head of marketing. They were so moved by my letter. I had told them about Megan and how one of their employees had so much heart that she changed my mother's life from existing to living, from being lonely to being surrounded by people that loved her. How I was so unbelievably grateful to her because she gave me a second chance with my mother. I told them that the circle had come to where I was living the life for my mother that she had once lived for me. They wanted to film my mother's story. So there are 7 children in my family, and I'm third in line. When we lost our father, I was 10. Mom became a single mom of 7 kids. She cooked every night. She never missed a holiday. Honestly, I don't know how she did everything that she did for us. My mother has Alzheimer's. My mother was very combative, and she was extremely suspicious, and that's all part of it. I had to make a decision. I put her into an assisted living facility. I saw her every day, took her outside for walks. And then COVID hit. We were told that we had 2 days that we had left to see anyone we loved in the facility. And now I had to see my mother through a window. And I saw her losing hope. The only thing I knew to do was to call my mom's caseworker. She said to me, "Do you want to take your mother home?" I said, "Yes, I do, but I'm afraid because I don't know how to take care of an Alzheimer's patient." She told me there would be a nurse from Horizon calling me. 2 minutes later, Megan called me. Megan told me that she would see this through all the way. Megan told me everything I needed to do. I thought that Horizon was just, you go to the doctor, they're gonna cover the expense, you pay your copay, they're gonna pay for prescriptions. It's a health insurance. It offered so much more than that. It offered help in caring and being there every step of the way. My mother gets her medicines. My mother gets a nurse. My mother gets aides. My mother has gotten a hospital bed, a wheelchair. Anything that I've ever needed is here the next day. When I brought my mom home, she didn't even know who I was. A few months into her being here, I heard my name for the first time. When we were growing up, my mom always had Sunday dinners. So I have Sunday dinners. My sons come with their wives and all the grandbabies. She sees them and she lights up. She just loves those children. They're a part of her life and she's a part of theirs now. My son, I'll find him slow dancing with her. And she is just breathing in every moment. It takes a village to take care of an aging parent. Horizon and Lynn and Megan are my village. That video was filmed less than a year ago. My mother was walking, putting words together, dancing, celebrating holidays around the table with her family, rocking outside on the porches as you saw, feeling the sunlight on her face that she had missed for so long. Around Christmas, my mother went on hospice. Our plan gave us several options, but we chose AtlantiCare Hospice. There was a big change that was happening in my mother. Instead of moving from room to room dancing, she stood in one place and just swayed to the music. She was having a lot of trouble swallowing foods that she had previously been able to swallow. Instead of standing, she wanted to sit. Instead of holding a fork or a spoon, we had to feed her. Her walk became a shuffle, and then she would look at my feet as I tried to show her how to put one foot in front of the other. I would hold her hands and guide her, and then she wouldn't walk anymore. My mother's in bed full time now. I make meals, and they're pureed. This is now where we're at. The word hospice terrified me until I got to see for myself what they were all about. Hospice is amazing. They treat my mother with so much love and dignity. My mother's hospice nurse comes twice a week, checks her over, and orders all prescriptions, and asks me what medical supplies is needed every week. He orders everything. And her prescriptions and medical supplies are at my home within 1 to 2 days. A hospice pastor comes once a week and told me that as my mother's sunset approaches, he'll be there as much as I need him. I have a social worker that comes once per week. At first, I thought she was there for my mother, but then I realized that she was there for me too. She has counseled me through my grief. Because each new loss that Alzheimer's has taken from my mother, I grieve. Hospice doesn't mean that they can't go to the hospital if they have pneumonia. It doesn't mean that if they have an infection, they're not going to be treated. Hospice is there to see that your loved one, in their last months, last days, and last moments, are comfortable and pain-free. They are to assist you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any questions I have, I call their number and a nurse is calling me within minutes. They're there for your loved one, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and for the family as well. When a person goes on hospice, they're usually given 6 months to live or less. Of course, that is not always the case. They could live much longer, and hospice would just continue as long as they had something that they knew they would never recover from. As in my mother's case, Alzheimer's. But our mom's a fighter. We say she's going to give them a run for her money. This night has been called a legacy of love. This is my mother's legacy. If you type in legacy, it'll tell you an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. Yes, indeed, that is a wonderful legacy. Or a gift that can be passed from generation to generation. But if you type in, what is a legacy of a person, you'll find this. It is about the richness of the individual's life, including what that person accomplished and the impact he or she had on people and places. Ultimately, the story of a person's life reflects the individual's legacy. What will your legacy be? I hope tonight that you now know more than when you came in the door. I hope I've helped you. Thank you, and may God bless each and every one of you and your loved ones. I'd like to close with this last video. This is my mother in the current day.
Thinking, breathing, feeling. Slow down time, 'cause it flies so fast. I'm trying to absorb the seconds while they last. Your scent, your smile, the twinkle in your eye, all the first, every low and every high. Catching tears when I'm looking at your face. You're the best part of me, you are my saving grace. And so I wish for you, my love. I let you fall asleep, all cuddled in my arms at night. I know that this will only last for so long, so I'm holding on extra tight while I write you this song. You look at me, I'm wondering if I'm doing my best. You are everything and I'm blessed, and so I wish for you, my love. I want you to be strong and